Hello, everyone. My name is Sandy Steiger. Thanks for attending this session. I'm here to talk to you about a product called Pantomath. Real quickly, I will give you a high-level overview of myself and the two companies that I will be representing today. So Sandy Steiger, been in the data science and analytics space for over 20 years now. I've led data science teams at a couple of different organizations. I just recently left, but I was at Total Quality Logistics. Total Quality Logistics is a freight brokerage company. So basically there's product that needs to get from point A to point B. And what Total Quality Logistics does is we find the carriers to move that freight at reasonable rates for our customers. We have a ton of data, a lot of data, and we're collecting data on a every day. Streaming data is coming into our organization, and our business wants to report on that relatively near real time, as close to real time as they can. Pantomath is the product that I'm going to be talking to you about today. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of the product. Booth 663 is right behind us here. They'll be happy to walk you through the product, but I'm going to tell you a story of how Pantomath helped save me, helped save my team at TQL. Okay, so basically Pantomath, data observability tool. When I joined TQL, so imagine this, you're a data science analytic leader, you're new to an organization, you walk into that very first team meeting where your team is so excited to share with you all of the amazing things that they've been doing over the last 5-6 years. They were sharing with me a report on our reports. I think that's how you know you've made it, right? You have so many reports that you have to build a report so that you can understand all of the reports that you have. So I'm sitting in this meeting and I look up at the screen and they're walking me through all of the numbers, all of the data, and I start to do some math in my head, and I stopped the team and I said, so 3,000, is that how many views of reports we've had in the last month? And they said, no, that's how many reports we have. That's how many reports that we're managing as a team. And I kind of wanted you all to gasp there, because normally what I get is 3,000 reports. How the heck do you have a company with that many reports, and how do you manage that, right? How is that possible? That's what I thought. So I said to them, well, 3,000 views might seem low, but 3,000 reports is astronomical. Like, that's insanity. We can't maintain a system like that. We can't maintain an environment like that, because here's what was happening daily. Reports were failing and we didn't know about it. I didn't know that there was an issue in some of our reports until the business messaged us to let us know that either the customer didn't get the weekly report that they were supposed to get, they didn't get their daily report at 9 a.m. that they were supposed to get, or it came back blank. So that's even better, right? My report ran, but it had no data in it. So that report should have never ran, or I should have gotten an alert that, hey, something's wrong here. We had a major report. Our number one viewed report was our sales revenue report. And this was something that needed to refresh on an hourly basis. I would get Teams messages from sales VPs, the CIO, alerting me that something was wrong in the report. Actually, what they would say is, your report's broken. My report, by the way, was never broken. It was usually an ETL pipeline that failed, or data was input incorrectly, or a latency issue, so the refresh was taking longer than it should have. But it was never the report. The report was pulling back exactly what it should have, and the report was running just fine. So I ended up hourly refreshing that report. That was part of my job as a data and analytics leader, is I wanted to make sure that the business didn't catch an issue in our top report. I wanted to catch it first, and then I wanted to alert them. Well, really what I wanted to do was fix it, right? But I wanted to know it ahead of time. So I was manually refreshing this report while hitting run to make sure that it was refreshing every hour. So then I was meeting with our CIO one day, and he happened to be telling me about this company that he met with. His name, Pantomath. They're this data observability tool. I don't know, Sandy, we have all of these failures every single day. Oh, and by the way, we're getting new requests for more reports on top of that 3,000 on a daily basis as well. So that our reports are, the number of reports we're managing are growing on a day-to-day basis. So I was like, you know what? I'll meet with them. Let me sit down and talk to them and see what they have to offer. So I like telling this story because I actually showed up to the lunch that I was having with the founder a little bit late, and I didn't want to stall. So I got a big personality, if you can't tell. So I just like come into this meeting and I said, hey, look, let me just tell you what my problem is, okay? I have ETLs that are failing all the time and I don't know about it. I have reports that aren't running, that are failing, that are breaking. I don't know about it. They're not sending, they're going out blank. I can't have this. I have all of our senior leadership has lost trust in data. They've lost trust in my team. I was getting phone calls in the middle of the night because our reports were failing. I was kind of done. I was kind of sick of that and I didn't want to live that life anymore. So Samesh is sitting there and he was like, well, he kind of just pitched my product back to me. So yeah, can I just show you a few slides? Let me walk you through what this tool does. So I just shared with him my pain points, and that's how our partnership began. We very soon after that, we started working with Pantomath. The beautiful part about the product is once we had all of our integrations or all of our connectors set up, I hate buzzwords, but I am gonna say a buzzword here because their product actually delivers on it and I've never seen it before. End-to-end observability, okay? And I'm not like, again, I hate buzzwords, but I legitimately could go from, it's gonna look back at the data set, all the SSIS packages, the SSIS any cubes, Fivetran. If you're working with DBT, Databricks, Power BI, it's connecting all of those things. Stored procedures, it knows, it's not like one of those systems where I have to go, okay, I can go to Power BI, figure out what reports failed. All right, so then I have to go to another system to figure out, well, what failed in that part of it, and then piece that story together. Pantomath has done all of that for me. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about, once I started working with the product, what were the benefits that I saw? Now, yes, observability, monitoring, report failures, that was our biggest one, but I have about 5 or 6 other things that this product offered me that I wasn't expecting to benefit from. First though, let's talk about the report monitoring and the report failures. We are able to set up alerts and we're able to notify the right team that their pipeline, their thing, whatever it was, failed. The nice part about this too is, let's suppose it's a data engineering, it's a stored procedure that failed, perhaps, right? Well, now I can also use Pantomath to tell me what other report is pulling from, or that is that stored procedure feeding data into. Now I can alert all of those teams, all of those users that their reports are broken or their reports have failed if they hadn't received that alerting yet, right? So that was a major benefit for us is all these teams weren't having to come to me to let me know that their reports were failing. I now had the ability to alert them ahead of time. So that was a huge benefit. There's data volume alerts that you can also detect. So here's another thing that would happen. That major report, that sales reporting tool that everyone was using, it would render, it would pull back data, but one of our ETLs, when it would run, it would delete all the data every hour. It would truncate the table and then go out and re-pull data and refresh it. So if that ETL was running slow and it was running long, my report came back blank, but my report didn't fail. So I'm not gonna get a failure for the report. What I end up getting though is a data volume alert because that data set does not have data in it, or it doesn't have the amount of data that I would have expected based on its usual run times or its usual size, right? So I'm able to get those alerts, which is incredibly powerful in a situation like that where I'm hourly trying to figure out why the heck is this report coming back blank? That was a huge benefit. There's also a functionality within Pantomath that allows you to do latency reporting or latency detection. So again, that's similar to this whole notion of that ETL is running long. Well, we also have that latency built into all of our Power BI reports. So we had this one, there was a day where I remember when we were going to have issues, they started about 7 a.m. every single morning. Okay, that's when everybody 7:30 a.m. everyone would get into the business. Everyone would get in, and they just start hitting refresh. They start hitting refresh on all of these reports because they want to check all of their KPIs. They want to see how their teams are performing. They want to see how the business is looking. Well, then I started getting all of these latency alerts from Pantomath start showing up that all of our reports are running long. And what it ended up happening was we were able to catch a gateway issue on the Microsoft side before all of our reports failed, and then everybody went in and hit refresh again. So not only were we going to have those latency issues, or were we going to have all of these reports failing, we were then going to have them overloading the system again from a capacity standpoint by trying to just refresh reports that weren't going to run because of our gateway. I didn't think that Pantomath was going to be able to help me detect that there was an issue on the Microsoft side, so then I could go back to Microsoft and say, hey, here's an issue that I need to work on with you. So that was a huge benefit that none of us were expecting, but then I was able to get out in front of the business a heck of a lot faster than I had historically. So that's been a leading indicator for us now when we see those types of latency alerts. Pipeline failures. Now, again, there is the monitoring built in, so we do get those alerts. Our data engineering team wasn't utilizing Pantomath as frequently as I would have liked them to be using it. So instead, my data analytics team, we were the ones being oversharing, over reviewing. We were the ones setting up the alerts and messaging out to data engineering that their pipelines were failing. They were inundated. We're going through a huge migration from on-prem to cloud. Just a lot of different tools were changing for them. So I get it. I understood where they were sitting at. However, this product could have helped save a heck of a lot of time for them. Am I messed up? Next slide. There you go. Okay, sorry about that. So where was I? Oh. There was a day where one of our pipelines had failed. So there was a system, one of our products. So this wasn't data that was feeding into a report. This was data that was feeding back into one of our applications that our sales teams use. But the data wasn't flowing properly. The data wasn't getting there. And so we had an outage. Anytime we have an outage, there's a bridge call. Every time there's a bridge call, there's usually close to 100 people on this bridge call trying to figure out what in the heck the issue was. So our data engineers are on this call. Everyone's actively trying to figure out what the issue was. Our most experienced data engineer, he's the one who knows the business the best. He's built the majority of these packages or these stored procedures. So he's the one, he's stepping back through, where did this failure occur? I think it took him about 3 hours to figure this out and to get it to remedy the issue. We happened to have a call with Pantomath later that day, and our data engineer popped on the call. Our Pantomath rep was like, hey, Max, why don't you tell me, what was the name of that thing you ended up finding? What was that failure? What was the name of that stored procedure? Or what was the name of the data set that we were pulling from? Craig types that thing into Pantomath, and within seconds, the failure popped up on the screen. And that was the wake-up call for our data engineering team that, oh, wait, hey, we didn't have to spend hours troubleshooting something. I could have used this tool to figure it out myself. And then you didn't need your most experienced person on that call either, which is a huge benefit for us. That helped teach all the rest of our data engineers a lot more about our systems and about our pipelines. We had purchased a data governance tool before I joined TQL. And we were promised data lineage in this package, and we still didn't have data lineage. So our data governance team used Pantomath to build lineage in the data governance tool that promised us data lineage. So we were actually using Pantomath to build out our data lineage within the organization. Frankly, one of the reasons I was told we didn't need Pantomath was because we had another product that provided lineage for us. So it was kind of icing on the cake for me that we were able to use the product in this way to really sell the real value, the overall value of what Pantomath brought to the organization. We had another situation where our application developers, they were making a change into one of their applications. So they had to, we're going to put new data, we're creating a new data input, and they were adding Mexico zip codes, basically, to the data solution. And they came back to the data team and they said, don't worry, nothing will break. Nothing downstream is pulling this in. There should be no implications, no failures, no issues in the business. We just thought to ourselves, let's go ahead and check Pantomath real fast and see if there is anything. We ended up finding 5 reports and downstream products that would have actually failed had they made this change without us prepping, making changes into those downstream systems. So we ended up delaying the push and that change that they wanted to make into their data solution, into that product. But from my standpoint, that saved us a ton of outages and hours of work scrambling to fix and ban data solution. We actually were able to build it correctly before that change occurred. And then you're probably wondering, Sandy, you said you started with 3,000 and this talk was supposed to be about how you got to 500 or less reports. We're getting there, we're getting there. One of my biggest initiatives was we're migrating from an on-prem solution to the cloud. So we wanted to get off of SSRS. And I was told, start migrating, start moving your reports. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not moving any of these reports. I'm only moving the reports that matter, the right reports, and the reports that are getting the views. And also we have a ton of reports that are doing the same exact thing. What we were able to do was we used Pantomath as a part of that migration effort. So we were able to back into years of business logic that had been built into some of these reports and some of these systems. So as we thought about migrating our most used reports, we would go back to Pantomath and figure out, okay, in order to I don't want to say recreate the report because we did transform them. We didn't just make a one-for-one migration. But what we did have to do is figure out where is all this data coming from and how do all of these data sources come together to create the metrics within those reports, because I don't know about your organizations, we didn't have any of that documented. So we were using Pantomath to help us create a lot of that documentation as well. And my data analysts have told me that without Pantomath, our report migration efforts would have taken us a heck of a lot longer because we would have had to go through each one of those reports, like open the report, look at the code to figure out where that data was coming from. And then we were also able to say, well, look at this. We've got 4 data sets that are feeding the same reports. So if they're all the same data is going into these 10 reports, do we need 10 reports? How about we collapse that to one report? So we're able to use a lot of that lineage that was built into Pantomath to get us to that point. And then let's see, I'm almost out of time here. So let's talk about what I'm excited about. So what's coming next, I think, within the product. One of our biggest pain points is when that pipeline fails or when something goes wrong, I want it to fix itself, right? So that's a feature that that Pantomath is talking about too, is we're gonna have self-healing pipelines. Am I allowed to say that? Whatever, you put me up here. So we're gonna have self-healing pipelines in the future where you can allow the system to say, yes, in a situation like this, fix it, rerun it, and everything downstream will be fine. Or you could put, no, when an error like this occurs, we're not going to allow Pantomath to fix it and rerun it. And then another big thing for us is data quality. And I'm sure a lot of our organizations, we've heard about it a lot at this conference, is data quality is a big thing for us. All of our data is coming from people manually putting it into a system. So I am excited about the features that Pantomath is bringing to the table to allow me to alert me to data quality issues, missing data, like there's anomaly detection. So those are the things that I'm really excited about in the product. Thank you so much for attending booth 663 right behind you on the left-hand side. If you have any questions, please pop over.